Hello friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Alyssa, but you may also know me as Goss or Gossamer. This is my first time doing a voiceover for one of my art videos, so if it's a little rough, just bear with me. Thank you all for being here today. We are looking at the process of creating Pisces from my Zodiac series. So a little bit about the Zodiac series. First of all, I started this series traditionally with Copic markers and glitter, actually. And the glitter part really wasn't working out, and I don't have a very good scanner, so I couldn't scan any of the Copic artwork pretty much at all and make it look good. So after a quick poll on Twitter and whatnot, we decided that I should just restart the series digitally. And I put that poll out in February, so that's when I started the series digitally, and that's why we're starting here with Pisces first. So you saw at the very beginning of the video a quick little image of the traditional art Pisces show up on screen, and I did base this design on that original design. I changed just a couple things, but the original design is still pretty much the same. The original artwork, she looked a little bit sort of shy or more reserved, and I decided that that just didn't quite fit Pisces as well as it should. So I decided to try and make this one more expressive, more bubbly, more excited, and I tried to carry that sort of bubbly feeling over in the design quite a bit. So like I gave her big round eyes, I tried to make her cheek look a little rounder than I might normally. I wanted to give her big round shapes for things, so like her sweater sleeves are super big and round, her skirt is a circle skirt. Well, it's a pleated skirt, but it's a pleated circle skirt. And like big bows in her hair and on her shoes, rounded shoes, things like that. I wanted to make her look really bubbly, and I even use some artwork of a bubble when I'm coloring her circle purse to try and give it that holographic sort of feel. So yeah, really quick though, I do want to mention, speaking of her skirt, when I was sketching this, it didn't look that short. Like, it looked short, but it looked sort of an acceptable anime girl type short, and then by the time I started coloring it and shading it, it looked really, really short, and I don't know exactly how that happened. I don't know what changed with the design along the way. I don't know, but I do try during the shading to make it look like the skirt's less short by changing up how her legs are shaded. It works a little bit, but it is still pretty short, and I do apologize for that. That was not intentional necessarily, but that happens with art. Sometimes we just make mistakes, and I like to leave stuff like that in my videos because personally I like watching that. When I'm watching speed paints, I like seeing when my peers make mistakes. I think it's just a little reminder that everyone is always improving, no one's perfect, and I like seeing that, so I left it in for you guys as well. Same with her face. I think you guys saw, I redid the sketch for her face like 8 million times, and I personally like seeing that sort of thing left in because, I don't know, I just like it. So we've moved on to line art now, and line art is by far my absolute favorite part of drawing digitally. So like if I'm doing traditional artwork, my favorite is sketching and coloring. I love doing my traditional pencil sketches. I also love coloring with Copic markers, but I don't really like traditional line art. However, I love digital line art. I can take my time to make every single line perfect. I'm one of those people who likes to sit here and redraw the same line 16 times until it looks exactly the way I want it. I'm strange. But yeah, I really enjoy doing line art, and the program I use, the art program Clip Studio Paint, has this really great like layer type. We can do vector art instead of just like raster layers. And that's super helpful for line art because if I want to go in and fine tune some of the lines, like change a width or just move the line slightly or change what the curve is doing, anything like that, I can go in and grab individual points on a line and move them around because it's vector art, and that is super helpful. Clip Studio also has a vector eraser, which I know this is kind of fast, so you guys probably can't see me use it really, but I use the vector eraser a lot. Anytime you have lines that sort of cross into each other, you can use the vector eraser to go over one of the tails of those lines, and it erases anything on the outside of that sort of intersection. It's super helpful for doing line art if you want closed shapes instead of lots of open lines or crisscrosses, things like that. So yeah, I really enjoy doing the line art. It's really fun. I do have the sketch and the line art sped up by, I think it's 28 times. Yeah, it's 28 times, and then the coloring part, which you guys will see later, is sped up by just 20 times because I noticed that if I kept it way too fast, or like at the double 28 speed, whatever, it was too fast and you couldn't actually really see what was happening. So I kept that at 20 speed, and then I've cut out the flatting that I do here after the line art, so you guys will see a skip between line art to shading. You won't see me color the individual pieces, because that's pretty boring and it's pretty standard. I just go in with a brush to make the outline of the shape and then fill it all in. One thing I do have to do in between the flatting and the shading, though, that I also took out that you guys won't see, Clip Studio right now only allows you to draw in RBG, which is great for digital art if you're posting anything like online or whatever. That's how computers see things, if that makes sense, but ink doesn't work that way. So if you want to print something, you have to print in CMYK color mode, and Clip Studio doesn't have a CMYK mode that you can draw in. So I'll do my flat coloring how I think it should look, and then I'll import this picture into a different software. I've been using Krita for that because it's free and it has CMYK, and I'll alter the colors so that they're CMYK compatible, and then I'll bring that picture back into my original file here and color pick the CMYK colors so that I can keep drawing in my original file, but I can have the colors, the base colors before shading, be CMYK compatible. And that helps a lot when I turn my artwork into CMYK at the very end as well, so that I can send prints of these off if I want to, things like that. It helps a lot to already have your base colors be in CMYK, so that when you're doing that final export, you don't suddenly have a bunch of blues that look brown or something. I don't know. It's it's odd. And that is something that I've started doing only recently, actually. I think I did an artwork for Imbolc in January or February. I think it was February, which is a Celtic sort of spring equinox festival. So yeah, that must be February. But I think that was the first time I ever actually used that method of making the base color CMYK first, and then doing all my shading and then exporting again into a different program to make it CMYK at the end. And that worked so much better than just taking my normal RGB file and making it CMYK at the end. It worked out really well. And then I do also want to mention about her design that I saw those shoes on, I think, Pinterest. I use Pinterest a lot when I'm looking for outfit designs or things like that. And the shoes on Pinterest had like double laces, and then someone had taken the giant bow and just slapped it on top of the laces, and I decided instead to just use the big bow because the double lace thing looked really strange. So I just want to, give credit where credit is due. I did not invent those shoes. I did borrow them from an existing shoe that exists somewhere in the world. Yeah, so about my shading here. Recently, I've been noticing that my digital art shading has not looked like my Copic marker shading, and that has been bothering me. Like, I really love the way my Copic shading turns out, and I'm usually not satisfied very much with my digital shading. So, I found a new brush, and it's called Flat Marker, and I don't remember if it's one of the ones that comes with Clip Studio or if it's something that I downloaded. But that's been helping a lot. It behaves quite a bit like Copic marker. It's different because it's digital, so the paint doesn't mix, things like that. But it gives me a similar feeling when I'm shading. And I also go in with lots of gradients, and I do, I'll make a hard shadow section and then I'll blur the edge of it. And And I think that's really helped my shading look more similar to how it does when I work with Copics, and I'm a lot more pleased with the results lately. So I'm really glad that's been working out for me. So yeah, I will probably be hopping in and out of this voiceover from now on. I'll just sit back, and when I see something that I want to talk about, I'll come back in and, you know, explain it or something. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and just keep watching. So here especially is when I tried to keep my, how I would shade something in sort of Copic style in mind, but I gave it a digital twist. So what I'm doing, if you guys can't tell, is I'm selecting each pleat of her skirt individually, and then I use my gradient brush to give it sort of a soft fade where there's a darker part of that pleat, and then I go in with a normal, sort of a normal hard brush and make sections of darker, deeper shadows or like wrinkles in the fabric. And then I go in with a smudging brush and smudge that out a bit, and sometimes I use that flat marker brush to give it like a backlight effect or add in an extra shadow or something like that. That is something that I do in a way with my Copic shading. I'll usually start with a darker color and then blend it out with the light color, and then I'll go back in with a dark color and add some sharper shadows. So this is one of those moments where I was really trying to mimic how I would shade something traditionally. And I liked it a lot. It worked a lot better for me than other things. Yeah, and then right now there's plaid on her skirt. I do end up changing that to a, I think polka dots in the end. Yeah, polka dots. And that's because the plaid was just sort of a texture I pulled in, and it didn't match like the way the fabric like was moving, if that makes sense. Like the lines were straight no matter how the fabric was facing, whether or not it was wrinkled, things like that, because it was just a texture. So I end up doing the polka dots sort of manually, and then yeah, I think it looks a lot better in the end. And I do also want to say that I am really, really pleased with the shading on this shirt. I think it's probably some of the best shading I have ever done. And that is sort of difficult for me to say. I grew up raised thinking that, like, we valued humility and, like, humbleness, and I basically grew up not knowing how to take a compliment, and it wasn't like intentional raising me to be so humble that I like couldn't like my artwork or things like that. But I think somehow I ended up taking it in that way, and a lot of people I knew who grew up in a similar way also do this. They have a hard time taking a compliment. They always think like they like put down their work instead of being proud of it, and I've been really trying to break that habit, because I think like I've gotten to a point with my art where I can look at it and say, that looks good, I'm proud of that, I like the way it looks. And it took me a really long time to get here, and I'm really happy that I am here now. So I thought I'd just share that with you all, so you can know that when I say I'm really proud of the way her shirt looks, it's difficult for me to say that, and it means a lot. It means that I'm like really, really pleased with it, and I don't know, that's just weird to say, weird to talk about, but yeah. Another thing I want to mention here while we're working on the shirt is, I mentioned before the texture of the plaid on her skirt, but here you can also see I've pulled in a texture that I'm using to make her shirt look like fabric. All the textures that I use are from the Clip Studio gallery, so they're either something that the Clip Studio brand made or something other users that use Clip Studio make and put on that gallery for free. The copyright info for all of that is, if you put it up there for free, you're allowed to use it in anything commercial, personal, whatever. So the only thing I can't do with it is, upload it and pretend that it's my original texture that I made. So I want you all to know that those textures, I only used ones from the Clip Studio gallery so that I'm not accidentally taking a texture that I was supposed to pay for if I find it on like Google Images or Pinterest or something, if someone else has uploaded it, stuff like that. And that is something that I really, really love about Clip Studio. It's a great program, and it's super easy to share your own textures or brushes that you make. It's really easy to find something that someone else has made and download it, and you can use it without having to worry about, copyright claims or someone accusing you of stealing, anything like that. So that's one of the reasons that I love and use this program. Going along with that, because I think I start shading it soon here, or texturing it rather, the shoes I wanted to make sort of look like leather, and just recently, while drawing Aries, the next Zodiac series character, I found a new texture on that gallery for leather, and it looks so much better. So I think with this one I just pulled in, what did I use? I think I used like an airbrush tool that had sort of a noise effect in it. And I think that's what I used for the leather in Pisces, but in Aries I used a brush that is supposed to actually look like leather, and that is from the Clip Studio community, and it looks a lot better. So I probably won't go back into this and change how the texture is for this version now, because that would be a lot of work, because I've already, rendered everything in CMYK and done all my post edits and things like that. But if I ever decide to do like a second Zodiac series sometime and I want to keep the same outfits or whatever, I would change it to, that new texture that I found. So just something fun to mention. And then shading hair, I have played around with different shading styles for hair a lot, especially in my digital work. It always looks kind of the same when I'm doing Copic marker shading or pencil shading. But digitally, it took me a really long time to find a style that I sort of liked, and I think I finally settled on this. I will probably still be changing it up and learning more, because I feel like I have a lot to learn with shading hair still. But basically what I do is I take a gradient brush, like an airbrush, and I make the bangs or hair around her face have a gradient effect that's got a similar skin tone, so that it looks like her hair is a little thinner by her face, or a little bit transparent. And then I take a darker color than her hair tone and put that at like the roots of her hair, or base of the neck, or if the hair comes to like in her ponytails, I put it where her hair would be denser. And then I take a lighter shade, but not the shade that has like her skin tone in it, but just a lighter shade, and put that at the ends of her hair so her ends look a little bit thinner. And then I use a softer brush and shade using like a multiply or something, so that I keep that gradient information and can shade on top of it. I don't know if that makes any sense. If you guys ever want to see a tutorial for any of the ways I shade, I would be happy to work on making some of those. So just let me know in the comments below, or send me a message or whatever. I'd be happy to, make some sort of tutorial for you all. And then here is where I talked about changing the shading on her legs to try and make her skirt look less short. And I think it works a little bit, because the skirt doesn't look like it's as far away from her body, it looks closer, but it still is very, very short. And that just happens sometimes. It's one of the reasons why I always suggest to people that when you're drawing and you think you're done, you don't just immediately post it. You take a step back, maybe sleep on it for a day, whatever, come back in a few hours with fresh eyes, and you will immediately see anything that you might consider a mistake, or something that you want to change will stick out to you, stuff like that. And then you don't have to worry about, oh no, I already posted it and now I want to change it, and what do I do? So I always recommend that you wait before posting something, just to make sure that it's really how you like it. And I wish I'd done that with the line art before continuing to color. I did that all in one day, and I think if I'd waited on the line art before coloring, I would have noticed that her skirt was short and gone back and changed it. Because at this point, I didn't notice her skirt was short until like right now, which is most of the way through the coloring, and it was sort of too late to go back and change that without spending probably 4 or more hours moving things around, drawing new lines, everything like that. So, you know, just my recommendation. If you think something's done, it most likely is mostly done. And just, you know, wait a couple hours, come back with fresh eyes, and you'll see what you want to change. Getting to the part now where I'm working on the last little bit of shading, and then you're gonna see me go in with a pale color or like a white and do some very thin highlights around like the edges of the liner or like a backlight effect. That's something that I really like doing in art, especially on sort of darker areas of the artwork, like where there's a shadow or like her shoes are black, her bag, whatever. It helps the liner pop a lot so that you can really see where the lines actually are and you can sort of separate those shapes again. And it also just, I think, looks nice. It's something that I've been doing in my art for pretty much forever. I really like doing sort of a backlight effect with it. And I also really like drawing shiny things, so that is also why I bring in that bright highlight at the end. So that's basically what you guys are gonna see. Right there was deepening up some shadows that were a little bit too light. And then, yeah, I don't know. I think this is pretty much the end. We're getting to those last little bits of highlights, correcting any shadows I want to change, and then we'll do the background. So I do want to say that the next video that I have that I'm working on is Aries. I've already finished all the artwork for Aries. You guys can see it on my Patreon, my Twitter, my DeviantArt, my website, wherever you guys want to look for that. Aries and Pisces are both up there. And then I am currently working on Taurus. I'm not sure when this video is going to be released. I might be done with Taurus by the end, or like by the time this video is actually up on YouTube. But if you want to see me work on Taurus or any of the other Zodiac artwork or commissions, anything like that, I am often streaming on Twitch. I'll have a link in the description box down below if you guys want to see this live. I will be drawing live on Twitch. And then also on my Patreon, I won't be streaming there, but I will have all of the Speedpaint videos posted a week early for patrons, and you guys can get a lot of cool content on my Patreon page. There's a tier where I'll send you a personalized sketch every month in the mail, so you'll get a physical pencil sketch from me, and that is super fun. That is something I really enjoy doing. It's probably my favorite part about Patreon is making those personalized sketches and sending them out. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys would, take a look there or share this video with some friends. I don't have a very big internet following right now, and I don't really care about the following so much, but I am trying to turn this into like an actual business instead of just a hobby. So I'd really appreciate if you would share or something, like, subscribe, all that. Yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the video and enjoyed my very first voiceover. So yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!